They say the quietest places often hide the loudest heartbreaks. In the middle of frostbitten autumn, nestled at the end of a gravel road lined with slumping fences and stubborn pine trees, stood a 2-story farmhouse with paint that used to be white and windows that always seemed to sigh. It was the kind of place that didn't expect visitors, didn't entertain noise, and didn't ask for second chances. And yet, on one particular Thursday morning, second chances came knocking, with a widow for children and an apology held behind trembling eyes. If stories like this stir something deep in you, if you believe in quiet miracles and messy, beautiful redemption, subscribe now. You don't want to miss what comes next. Noah Bennett didn't believe in fate. He believed in fixing what could be fixed, enduring what couldn't, and drinking strong black coffee by 6 a.m. every morning while watching the fog roll and like it owned the land. His life had been measured in repairs of tractors, fences, and the pieces of his heart no one had dared to name since his wife died 3 years ago. He had his routine: feed the chickens, repair the porch, argue with the wood stove, refill the dog's bowl. Cooper, an old golden retriever with more years than teeth, was the only one who didn't judge him for talking to himself. And then came the knock. Short, hesitant, followed by the kind of silence that said, "We don't want to be here either." Noah opened the door and saw them. A woman in a wrinkled coat 2 sizes too big, for children arranged like a defensive line around her, and a battered minivan coughing smoke in the driveway. She had a tear on her cheek she hadn't noticed. The youngest clung to her leg like a life raft. The oldest, a teenage boy, tried not to look scared but failed. We were told you might have room," she said. Noah looked at them, then at the sky, then back at them. "Depends who told you." "My aunt. She said your wife used to run the church shelter. Said if anyone would help." He almost shut the door. Almost. But there was something in her voice, this mix of hope and defeat, a kind of resignation that came from trying too long and expecting nothing, that made him pause. He didn't say yes. He just stepped aside. The house hadn't had that many people in years. It groaned under the weight of laughter and footsteps, as if unsure how to hold it. The kids didn't talk much. The youngest, Ivy, was 4 and mute from trauma. The middle 2, twin girls named May and June, whispered each other in their own made-up language. And the eldest, Thomas, was 17 and spoke only when he absolutely had to. The woman, Claire, kept apologizing. For the noise, for the clutter, for existing. Noah told her to stop. They stayed one night, then another. Then Noah found himself fixing the upstairs pipes he'd ignored for a decade, then clearing the old barn out so the kids could play, then baking bread because Claire missed the smell. It wasn't love. Not at first. It was something quieter, a kind of shared survival. He watched her scrub floors with the kind of focus people reserve for hiding grief. She watched him talk to the old dog like it was a priest, and slowly a rhythm emerged. The girls started calling him Mr. No. Ivy started humming. Thomas started chopping wood without being asked. Claire confessed her husband had died 3 years ago. Her in-laws had said she was bad luck, that 4 mouths were too many to feed, that she should start over somewhere else. Noah didn't ask why she hadn't. She didn't ask why he still wore his wedding ring. And then came the letter. A developer, big money, offering to buy Noah's land for twice its worth, threatening eminent domain if he didn't sell. He crumpled the letter and lit the stove with it. But more came. Phone calls, inspections, a man in a shiny suit showing up one morning, flashing a smile as empty as a politician's promise. "We can build condos," he said. "You can retire." Noah looked at the twins playing the field. Retire from what? Living. Claire stood beside him, silent, but solid. That night, he told the kids a story about a man who built a house from nothing, lost everything, and then found more than he ever thought he deserved. Thomas asked if the man ever got tired. All the time, Noah said, but then someone always made breakfast. The winter came hard. Pipes froze. Power flickered. But the house held. And then one morning, the barn caught fire. It was fast. Too fast. The kids screamed. Claire grabbed Ivy. Noah ran in after the twins. Smoke. Heat. cracking beams. He found them hiding behind a hay bale. "Close your eyes," he said. "Count to 5. He carried them out. Barely. His arms burned. His lungs screamed. The barn collapsed behind him like a closing chapter. Claire cried that night, not because of what was lost, but what wasn't. Noah held her. Not tight, not yet, but enough. The next morning, the developer came again, saw the ruins, smirked. "Guess it's time to sell, old man." Noah said nothing, but Thomas stepped forward. "This land isn't for sale." The man laughed. "Who's going to stop me?" "You." Thomas didn't flinch. "All of us." They took it to court, local lawyers, small town press, and something strange happened. People remembered Noah's wife, the shelter she ran, the lives she changed. They rallied, raised money, found loopholes. And when the judge read the verdict, land preserved, sale blocked, developer fined, Noah didn't cheer. He just looked at Claire and saw a tear this time she didn't notice. Spring came late that year. The garden they planted behind the house started to bloom. Claire opened a tiny bakery in the old feed shed, called it Second Rise. The girls painted signs. Ivy spoke her first word, home. Thomas got into college, full scholarship, studying law. Noah built a new barn, this one with the kids' handprints in the cement floor. They weren't a family by blood, but they were one by choice. And one evening, as the sun set slow and golden, Claire handed Noah a photograph. His wife, her husband, standing together at a fundraiser years ago. They were friends, she said. Maybe more. Noah blinked, looked again, saw something he hadn't before. "They brought us together," Claire whispered, "even if they had to leave first." The dog barked. The kids laughed. The wind smelled like cinnamon and soil. But just as peace settled in, a car pulled into the drive. A woman stepped out, sharp suit, dark sunglasses, holding a briefcase and a birth certificate. "I believe one of these children is my biological niece," she said, "and I've come to take her home." The porch fell silent. The story wasn't over. Not even close. They say love doesn't knock twice. But sometimes it doesn't need to. It just quietly stays. In the form of mismatched socks on a hallway floor, giggles from a bunk bed at midnight, a pie cooling on a windowsill that never used to see much sun. When we left off, Carter Hayes, a quiet single dad of one and keeper of a life shaped by solitude, had taken in a widow named Joelle and her 4 children after they were cast out by family that couldn't be bothered to love loud enough. He had no intention of becoming anything more than a brief shelter. But they weren't just passing through. They were planting roots in a house that had forgotten how to hold joy. Until then, the days that followed their arrival unfolded with a kind of quiet intensity, like watching a photograph develop in slow motion. In the early mornings, Carr would find tiny socks in the laundry, peanut butter fingerprints on the fridge, and a new drawing taped to the hallway wall. A smiling sun, a crooked tree, the outline of a man with glasses labeled Mr. Carter. Maddie, the oldest of 10, had taken to sitting on the porch swing, scribbling in a journal she wouldn't let anyone read. She didn't trust easily. She watched the world like it might leave again, like it always had. Joelle told him her daughter had spoken her first word in 6 months the night they arrived. It was just one word: safe. Toby and Caleb, the 7-year-old twins, were chaos in motion. They called Carter captain, even though he'd never seen the sea. They fashioned swords out of branches and swore allegiance to Barncat, who clearly regretted all its life choices. And baby Lucy, well, she wasn't really a baby anymore, just 3 years old, soft curls and quieter than her siblings. She had the eyes of someone who listened to the world instead of demanding from it. She followed Carter everywhere. Her tiny hand fit into his like it had been designed for the space. And Joelle had become a rhythm in the house. She made breakfast humming old Ella Fitzgerald, folded laundry with fingers that used to play piano, and apologized too much. As if every kindness she offered might overstay its welcome, Carter noticed. It didn't happen all at once. It never does. It happened in the way Joelle would lean just slightly toward him when they laughed, in the way Carter fixed the creaky floorboard outside her room without saying a word, in the way they both looked out at the same sunrise one morning from different windows. It happened in 100 unsaid things, and then all at once, but the world, as it often does, had other plans. The first sign was an envelope taped to the front door, official letterhead, the kind that smelled like trouble. The house, apparently, was sitting on land that hadn't been properly registered. A family member of Carter's late wife, distant but wealthy and opportunistic, had filed a claim. They wanted the land. They saw profit, not people. Joelle read the letter twice and sat down on the porch step. The wind moved her hair gently, like it wanted to comfort her. Carter stood still, fists clenched in his pockets. "They can't just take it," she whispered. "They can try," he said. And so the days turned into meetings, court papers, quiet panic that simmered beneath the surface. Joelle offered to leave, of course. Said she didn't want to be the reason he lost the only place he'd ever call home. He laughed, then shook his head. This place didn't feel like home until you got here. They fought, not with each other, with everything else. The weight of doubt, the pressure of proving what they already knew, that a house wasn't made of walls, but the people who filled it with music and burnt toast and finger paint. The court date came quicker than expected. Carter wore a suit that didn't quite fit, and Joelle wore a scarf her late husband had given her. She never wore it before. It had always carried too much pain. But today, it felt like a kind of courage. Maddie wrote a letter to the judge. She read aloud in the kitchen the night before. Her voice cracked on the line. This is the first time we didn't have to pretend everything was okay. When the day came, the judge was stern and impartial. The opposing lawyer smug, expensive. But Carter didn't flinch. Joelle didn't waver. And when they showed the drawings, the letters from neighbors, the taped-together photos the kids had made of their new family, something shifted. In the end, the judge ruled in their favor. The house stayed theirs. Joelle cried. Carter let her. When they returned, the neighbors had decorated the fence with balloons. The twins declared a backyard pirate festival in celebration. Lucy clapped when the front door opened. And in that moment, Carter realized what had happened. They hadn't just moved in. They had moved him. All of him. A month later, in the soft lull of a golden evening, Carter stood under the tree he'd planted when his daughter was born. He held something small in his hand. Not flashy, just simple. True, a ring. He didn't say much when he knelt. Just held it out like a question he already knew the answer to. Joelle said yes. With tears, with laughter, with a kiss that tasted like cinnamon and promise. The kids wore matching outfits at the wedding. Lucy carried a basket of leaves. Maddie read a poem. The twins tried to convince the minister to let them wear pirate hats. He said yes. And in the background, behind the laughter and the cake and the slow song Carter dared to dance to, a new sound took root. The sound of a life healed not in a rush, but in the slow, steady miracle of being chosen again and again. But just when they thought the story was over, a truck pulled into the driveway the next morning. A woman stepped out, older, weathered, her eyes familiar. She looked at Carter, then at Joelle, then at the house. I used to live here, a long time ago. Carter blinked. I'm your wife's sister, she said, and I have something that belongs to you. In her hand was a faded envelope, sealed unopened, with Carter's name in handwriting he hadn't seen in a decade. The story wasn't finished. If this story touched something in your soul, don't keep it to yourself. Subscribe to our channel. Share this with someone who needs a miracle. And leave a comment to tell us your favorite moment. Because sometimes the smallest stories are the ones that stay with us the longest.